जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यमुना तीरावनचारि। यमुना तीरावनचारि। हे राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय निताय सचिनंदन निताय सचिनंदन निताय सचिनंदन गौर हरि। निताय सचिनंदन निताय सचिनंदन निताय सचिनंदन गौर हरि। जय जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद। जय जय गुरुदेव गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव। निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल। निताय गौर हरि बोल। दाय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to the Sunday Bhagavatam discussion. I'll start with the prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगल्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayel Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. So we will be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 11, Text 7. Share the screen. I hope you can see the screen. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhavaya nastvam bhava vishvabhavana Tvameva matatha suhrilpatih pita Tvam sadgururnah paramam cha daivatam Yasyānuvritya kritino babhuvima Bhavaya nastvam bhava vishvabhavana Tvameva matatha suhrilpatih pita Tvam sadgururnah paramam cha daivatam Yasyānuvritya kritino babhuvima Bhavaya nastvam bhava vishvabhavana Tvameva matatha suhrilpatih pita Tvam sadgururnah paramam cha daivatam Yasyānuvritya kritino babhuvima. Anybody would like to chant?
Bhavayanastvam bhavavisvabhavana tvam eva matat suhrutpatihi pita tvam sadgururna paramam cha daivatam yasyānavritya krutino bhavuvima. Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thanks to Prabhu, I can try Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, please. Yeah.
Bhavayanastvam bhavavishvabhavana Tumeva matata suhritpati pita Tum sadguruna param cha daivatam Yasyānivritya kritino bhavuvima.
Mataji. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, please.
Bhavayana bhava vishvabhavana tvameva mata taspritatpatti pita tvam sadguruna paramam cha devatam yashyanuvartya kritino babhuvima.
Thank you, Mataji. So I will read the synonyms. Bhavaya for welfare, na for us, tvam your lordship. Bhava just become, Vishwabhavana, the creator of the universe. Tvam your lordship. Eva certainly, Mata mother, Atha as also, Suhrit well-wisher, Pati husband, Pita father. Tvam your lordship. Sadguru spiritual master, Nah our Paramam the supreme, Cha and Daivatam worshipable deity, Yasya whose Anuvritya following in the footsteps, Kritina successful, Babhuvima we have become. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, translation. O Creator of the universe, you are our mother, well-wisher, Lord, Father, spiritual master and worshipable deity. By following in your footsteps, we have become successful in every respect. We pray, therefore, that you continue to bless us with your mercy. Purport: the all-good personality of Godhead, being the creator of the universe, also plans for the good of all good living beings. The good living beings are advised by the Lord to follow his good advice, and by doing so, they become successful in all spheres of life. There is no need to worship any deity but the Lord. The Lord is all-powerful, and if he is satisfied by our obedience unto his lotus feet, he is competent to bestow upon us all kinds of blessings for the successful execution of both our material and spiritual lives. For attaining spiritual existence, the human form is a chance for all to understand our eternal relation with God. Our relation with him is eternal. It can neither be broken nor vanquished. It may be forgotten for the time being, but it can be revived also by the grace of the Lord if we follow his injunctions, which are revealed in the scriptures of all times and all places. So I seek for your blessings and prayers so that I can speak, which is pleasing to Srila Prabhupada and the devotees. So this verse, now we are in the section where Krishna has returned to Dwaraka, and the citizens of Dwaraka, they are welcoming Krishna and glorifying, etc. So here we can see they are offering prayers, very beautiful prayers. So as we have heard many times, when we offer prayers, first we have to glorify the Lord, or if we are offering prayers to our spiritual master or acharyas, also we glorify them and then offer our prayers. So we have to, from a condition soul perspective, usually the tendency is to start maybe in a polite way, but demanding, I need this, I have this issue, I have this problem, please take care of that, etc. But now, as we can see here, they are not going into that mood. First, they are glorifying Krishna as, O creator of the universe. He is the creator of the universe. And then they are mentioning you are everything in some sense. Mother, you are well-wisher, Lord, of course, Father, spiritual master, and worshipable deity. So they are understanding Krishna's position, and then thus they are following in his footsteps. And that way they are becoming successful in every respect. That's what they are mentioning here. And then they are praying because of that, please bless us with your mercy. Now here, some verses before, we have seen how Krishna's day looks like. Krishna wakes up very, very, very early, and then he does puja and all those things, and he offers respects to elders and all those things. So we had discussion about that. And then here citizens of Dwaraka, they are telling, Krishna is doing those activities only to be a role model. He doesn't need to do all those things otherwise. Even he visits some temples there, etc., and then takes care of the kingdom. Now he is following in the, the citizens are following in his footsteps in that way. So the all good personality of Godhead being the creator of the universe. So it's specifically mentioned you are the creator of the universe. So he plans for the good of all good living beings. So because he created the universe, he himself is creating situations for all good, for of course of everyone in one sense. But then if a group of people or group of living entities are not obeying his advice, then they will not be able to benefit from his compassionate nature. So that is why it is mentioned here that also plans for the good of all good living beings. Not all living beings, even though Krishna intends to do that, but because of our reciprocation or lack of reciprocation to his advice, sometimes we may not receive his blessings, even though he is blessing or giving his mercy. So here they are praying especially for bless us with your mercy. That is very, very important to know. We need Krishna's mercy to do anything. Whether we are in this condition state or we are liberated. So eternally we need Krishna's mercy to exist and engage in any activities. Now there are many instructions in this nice verse. So I was inspired to, since Janmashtami is coming in a few weeks. Of course, Balaram Jayanti is coming before that, and then Janmashtami is coming. So Lord is descending himself to give his mercy to all the conditioned living entities. And this is a prayer from the citizens of Dwarka. So I was inspired to go through the prayers of the demigods. When Krishna appeared first in the heart of Vasudev and then transferred to Devaki's heart and then womb. So his appearance is very special, of course. Janma karma cha me divyam, not like the appearance of us. We have a material body, etc. But he comes in his own form. Prakritim swam adhisthaya sambhavami atma mayaya. He speaks in Bhagavad Gita 4:6. So when he appeared in Devaki's womb, Devaki looks much effulgent. And then demigods understood that because they have the, they are empowered to understand that. So they offered many prayers in 10th canto, chapter 2. I'll read 2 of those prayers, which has some connection to this verse. And the first one is 10:2-26, which is a very nice verse also. Let me see if I can share that. I have it here. Because the verse is very nice. There are many, you can see the words Satya, Satya, Satyam, Satya, 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 so many. So I'll chant the verse because of the beauty of the words and it's auspicious. Satyavratam Satyaparam Trisatyam Satyasya yonim nihitam cha satye Satyasya Satyam Rita Satya Netram Satyalpmakam Tvam Sharanam Prapanna. And the translation: the demigods prayed, "O Lord, you never deviate from your vow, which is always perfect because whatever you decide is perfectly correct and cannot be stopped by anyone. Being present in the 3 phases of cosmic manifestation, creation, maintenance, and annihilation, you are the supreme truth. Indeed, unless one is completely truthful, one cannot achieve your favor, which therefore cannot be achieved by hypocrites." So in the purport, Prabhupada was mentioning good, all good for all good living beings. So somewhat similar aspect is spoken here. You are the active principle, the real truth in all the ingredients of creation, and therefore you are known as Antaryami, the inner force. You are equal to everyone, and your instructions apply for everyone for all time, which is important. Now, how we take the instruction, it depends on our free will. You are the beginning of all truth. Therefore, offering our obeisances, we surrender unto you. Kindly give us protection. So the demigods are also, of course, praying for his protection, but in the beginning they glorifies the Lord, in different aspects, especially in connection with the Creator. He is the Creator. Of course, he takes care of maintenance, creation, maintenance, and annihilation. But he gives charge of creation to Lord Brahma, annihilation to Lord Shiva, and maintenance he himself, as Vishnu, takes care. But still he is the overall in charge. So demigods are focusing on that aspect of Krishna, and then they are praying to give them protection. This is very wonderful to know. And in another verse, I'll just read the translation in verse 40 of, so 10:2-40, demigods' prayers. They pray that in this verse, they describe different incarnations also. O Supreme Controller, your Lordship previously accepted incarnations as a fish, a horse, a tortoise, Narasimhadeva, a boar, a swan, Lord Ramachandra, Parashurama, and among the demigods, Vamanadeva, to protect the entire world by your mercy. So very clearly they are confirming we need his mercy. No, definitely. And then they continue, now please protect us again by your mercy by diminishing the disturbances in this world. O Krishna, best of the Yadus, we respectfully offer our obeisances unto you. And in that purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, I'll read a couple of sentences. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has a particular mission to execute, and this was true in his appearance as the son of Devaki in the family of the Yadus. Thus, all the demigods offered their prayers to the Lord, bowing down before him and requested the Lord to do the needful. Now, Prabhupada writes, we cannot order the Supreme Personality of Godhead to do anything for us. We can simply offer him our obeisances, as advised in Bhagavad Gita, the verse, Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru, etc., and pray to him for annihilation of dangers. So we can only simply request and offer him our obeisances, and then leave everything else to Krishna, how he protects, etc., etc. So we cannot demand, you have to protect us because we are we are your devotees, and we are taking so much pain, austerity to follow the devotional practices. So you must protect. No, we cannot. Of course, we don't need to. We know that he is protecting all the time. So the point here is, Prabhupada is confirming that the mood by which we should pray, not as a demand, but in a polite mood, humble mood. And then the citizens of Dwaraka, they are at a very, very high level compared to us, and they are also following the same principle in a humble mood, etc. And in this verse, it is described by them as Krishna is father, Krishna is mother, etc. So we can see that from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14:4, the verse, it describes the Krishna is aham bija pradah pita sarvayonishu kaunteya murtaya sambhavantiya tasam brahma mahad yonir aham bija pradah pita. I am the seed-giving father for all living entities. Krishna confirms. And in this today's verse, it is described that Krishna is the mother of all. So we can see Bhaktivinoda Thakur also described that in his very famous bhajan, Nadiya Godrume Nityananda Mahajan. So there is one line goes like this: Aparadha shunya hoye loha Krishna nama, Krishna mata, Krishna pita, Krishna dhana prana. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is mentioning, chant Krishna's name without offense. Accept Krishna as your mother. Accept Krishna as your father. Krishna mata, Krishna pita. Accept Krishna as your wealth and your life. So life and soul. Krishna is his life and soul. In a similar fashion, he is also mentioning that. Mother and father will definitely take care of the kids. So Krishna is our mother and father. So there is no question about, or no doubt that whether Krishna will take care or not, he will definitely take care of us. And Krishna is a well-wisher. In this verse, Dwaraka, citizens of Dwaraka mentioned Krishna is a well-wisher. So we hear this same thing from Bhagavad Gita, verse this 529, last verse of chapter 5, very famous verse. Bhoktaram yatnyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shanti mrichati. So he's telling, a person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So, it is mentioned in many places. Krishna is the original well-wisher of all living entities, and just by surrendering to him, having that consciousness of I am a servant of Krishna, I must serve him, and all the pains will be removed, and we will attain complete peace. That is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So same, now we can see that the citizens of Dwaraka, they know all these scriptures also, all the principles of scriptures. They know Krishna's position and everything else, and then they are completely following, they are in that mood, completely following those principles and demonstrating how to serve Krishna. Now, Vrindavan mood is very different. There, the Krishna's position as a god is covered by Yogamaya because Krishna wants to enjoy the rasa. Even the Vrindavan Vrajavasis, they also have this spontaneous love in different ways, different rasas also. But so they may not pray to Krishna in this way. They will be having a very wonderful pastimes with Krishna. But here in Dwaraka, the mood of reverence is also seen. So, and they mention Krishna is the worshipable deity. So we can, again, I'm coming to Bhagavad Gita because there are some verses wherein Krishna describes his compassionate nature towards his pure devotees. One of the verses in 9:22, again, that is another famous verse. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam mahamyaham. So whoever is serving Krishna with one pointed attention without deviation or no mixed devotion, completely exclusive devotion, Krishna will keep whatever they have, and he will provide whatever they lack. And he also describes in another verse in in that chapter that if devotees of other gods, or that means demigods, suppose somebody is worshipping demigod thinking that they are the supreme demigods, it is offense. But if someone does that, then they are doing that worship in avidhi purvakam, he mentions. It's in a wrong way. So in today's verse, in the purport, Prabhupada mentions we just need to worship Krishna only. No need to worship anyone else. So Krishna confirms that in Bhagavad Gita. And chapter 9 Bhagavad Gita, he offers the he also speaks the famous verses patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya, etc. So with love, if somebody offers simple things, items like flower, fruit, water, or leaf, he will very kindly accept that. So the devotion is most important. Bhaktya word is there 2 times in that verse. And then in the next verse, Yat Karoshi Yadatnyasi, that verse he describes, whatever we do, or eat, or offer, or give away, or whatever austerities we perform, please do that as an offering to me. Krishna speaks. So he, in Bhagavad Gita, he emphasizes the point that we simply need to serve him. And he describes also how to serve in many ways. Then he will take care of everything. And he ends with, last instruction is Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarvapapebhyo Mokshayishyami Ma Shuchaha. So he very clearly describes that. Just need to surrender to him. So the citizens of Dwaraka, they are already surrendered to him. They accepted him as supreme, and he is their life and soul. So they are very happy to see him back, and then offering their prayers and expressing their gratitude and happiness. Now, they also mention Krishna is spiritual master. And in one of the verses in Bhagavatam, Narada Muni instructs Dhruva Maharaja when he quits home. Of course, his mother Suniti instruct him to go to the forest, and then you can find Lord Vishnu. So he just walks into the forest and finds Narada Muni. Narada Muni tests him and then understand his determination, and then he'll instruct how to worship Krishna in the Madhubana. So in one of the verses, he describes in that verse, one of the couple of words are Manasa Guruna Gurum. So Narada Muni is mentioning Guru here, but this Guru is Krishna only, because in the translation, Prabhupada translates that as Supreme Personality of Godhead. Completely free yourself from all material contamination, and with great patience begin to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though the verse speaks about Gurum. So that means Krishna is the Supreme Spiritual Master. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions the Supreme Spiritual Master is Krishna, who is therefore known as Chaitya Guru. And this is a super soul. He's mentioning super soul who is sitting in everyone's heart. So Krishna sits in our heart as Chaitya Guru and helps from within And he will also send his representative spiritual masters, acharyas, to help us from without. So that way he has two different ways of helping us as guru, other than anything else. And the citizens of Dwaraka, they speaks that we follow in your footsteps, and that way we are becoming successful. So that is the sutra for becoming successful. Simply follow in the footsteps of Krishna. Now, if one doesn't know Krishna properly or doesn't understand Krishna's activities properly, there is a tendency that we might imitate Krishna instead of following. Of course, there are many people doing that. They imitate rasa dance and many other activities. But when Prabhupada always tells this, if somebody is imitating Krishna, ask them, can you imitate his Govardhan Leela? Can you lift Govardhan, etc.? So of course, they cannot imitate all the activities of Krishna. So we have to know which all activities Krishna demonstrates we can follow and which all we cannot. So for that we need the instructions or help or support from the spiritual master, his representative. So follow in the footsteps of Krishna also means follow in the footsteps of spiritual master. So we can discuss more on that aspect, which is very much applicable to us. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions, instruct everyone to follow the orders of Lord Krishna as they are given in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. That way become a spiritual master and try to liberate everyone in this land. Do not become a guru by whimsically bringing our own interpretations or our own new ideas and things like that, which many people does these days, attract people, make followers and then cheat them. That Mahaprabhu's instruction is simply follow the orders of Krishna as they are given in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. There are abundance of instructions. So we can follow that first. And then that way we become spiritual master in that sense by sharing that to others. Once we follow, then we will realize the importance of that. We can share the message in a humble mood to other people. And then they will get an opportunity to liberate themselves. So that is his instruction. Now, how do we become a good, maybe a preacher or spiritual master or leader or whatever we can call, or someone who can share this message? So that principle is also given in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Madhya Leela. There is a verse in Madhya Leela 17:186, which is a famous verse. I think I have here. I'll share that verse. So there are two verses actually, 185 and 186. Now this verse is 186, but Prabhupada gives purport in 185, even for the 186 verse. But I'll chant this verse because this is very important and nice verse. Tarko pratishta shrutayo vibhinna nasa rishiryasya matam na bhinnam dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam mahajano yena gata sapantha. So this is so important. In his lectures also he'll speak about this many times, Prabhupada. Mahajano yena gata sapantha. They are showing the way. So Mahaprabhu speaks, these dry arguments are inconclusive. A great personality whose opinion does not differ from others is not considered a great sage. Simply by studying the Vedas, which are variegated, one cannot come to the right path by which religious principles are understood. The solid truth of religious principles is hidden in the heart of an unadulterated, self-realized person. Consequently, as the Shastras confirm, one should accept whatever progressive path the Mahajanas advocate. So Prabhupada describes that even if we try to study Vedas on our own, we will not be successful. But because the real truth of all these principles, these are hidden in the heart of an unadulterated, self-realized person, pure devotee. So unless we get their mercy or take shelter of them, we cannot understand Krishna or any of these principles. Prahlad Maharaj also speaks to his father, Mahiyasam Padarajo Bhishekam. That's how he describes. Unless one smears one's own body with the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee, one cannot, understand the Supreme Lord and follow and become successful and achieve Him. So if we need to achieve Krishna, love of Krishna, we need the help of a pure devotee. That is what being mentioned here, following the footsteps of a Mahajana. And then in this verse, which is a previous verse, of course, it describes about Madhavendra Puri, a devotee's behavior establishes the true purpose of religious principle. So by observing a pure devotee, how he behaves, how he speaks, again, Bhagavad Gita gives those symptoms of a pure devotee, etc. When Arjuna asks Krishna, we can know the purpose of religious principles. The behavior of Madhavendra Puri Goswami is the essence of such religious principles. And then I'm not going to read the purport or discuss this. It's a very wonderful purport. So many verses Prabhupada is quoting here, starting with who is a real Mahatma or Mahajana, which is given in Bhagavad Gita. Those are not deluded. The great souls are under the protection of the divine nature. And they are always fully engaged in the devotional service because they know the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Those Mahatmas are or Mahajanas. We have to follow in their footsteps. Then only we can understand Krishna and become successful. And then he describes so many principles and follow this. This is not to be followed, and what is animalistic leaders, and it's so wonderful purport. And he quotes from Bhagavatam also. Karmis are accepted as Mahajanas in this material world by foolish people. We know that, a film star or sportsman or that politician, people consider them as good as God. Sometimes they build temple in the name of some movie star and things like that. So all sort of nonsense is happening, but they don't understand who is real Mahatma. And then this is a famous verse Prabhupada quotes many times. This Yasyatma Buddhi Kunapetri Dhaduke, etc. Somebody is too much attached and things like that. They consider his land of birth worshipable, etc. So these are not the correct way to go. So the pseudo Mahajans he speaks about, and don't get cheated by them, etc. And this again he quotes from Madhya Leela. So there are many things he speaks about how to be not cheated by the so-called Mahajanas or Mahatmas. And then finally he describes who is the actual Mahajanas, which is given in the scripture. In Bhagavatam we have this verse where it describes the names of Mahajanas. We have Lord Brahma, Narada Muni, Shiva, Shambhu, 4 Kumaras, Kapila, Manu, Prahlad Maharaj, Janaka Maharaj, Bhishma Dev, Bali, Shukadev Goswami, and Yamaraj himself. So these are the Mahajanas. So we can learn from these Mahajanas. Now only 12 names are given in this verse, but there are many other Acharyas, including Srila Prabhupada. They are also Mahajanas. No difference. So we have to learn from such qualified, genuine Mahajanas who are glorified in the scripture. So we can see here Chandidasa, Vidyapati, and Jayadeva, where all Mahajanas he speaks. So there are many Mahajanas. We have all Goswamis. They have given many literatures to us, etc. So by following in their footsteps, that is how we can become successful in this world. And another aspect which is relevant, I thought for today's discussion is, since Rupa Goswami's disappearance day is coming up, I think Tuesday in India at least. So we are all Rupanugas, because we are instructed to follow in the footsteps of course, Acharyas as 6 Goswamis, but specifically Rupa Goswami. Now, we know the reason for that. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave all his mercy to Rupa Goswami to understand him and understand the devotional principles, and instructed him to also empowered him and then instructed him to write literatures and excavate Krishna's pastime places, etc. So he is one of the very significant acharya in our line, and Srila Prabhupada also followed Rupa Goswami very much, and he instructed us to follow in his footsteps. So there is a verse in Manashiksha by Raghunath Das Goswami. There are 12 verses in Manashiksha. The last verse, I'll just read the transaction. There is a mention about Sri Rupanuga Iha Bhavan. So he describes anyone who adopting the line of Sri Rupa and his followers, of course, because the followers are following Rupa Goswami, takes up residence in Gokulavana and loudly sings these 11 excellent instructions to the mind in a melodious voice with full understanding of their meaning, will certainly obtain the matchless gem of worshipping Sri Sri Radha Krishna. So he also emphasizes we have to follow in the footsteps of Mahajanas, specifically Sri Rupa Goswami. Interestingly, in the pranam mantras of Bhakti Vinod Thakur and Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj, both of them, the pranam mantras, we see the same word Rupanuga. In Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanugavarayate. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur is considered as the transcendental energy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then he is also Rupanuga, strict follower of the Goswamis headed by Srila Rupa Goswami. And in Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaja's Pranam Mantra, there are four verses. In the verse 3 and verse 4, Rupanuga is mentioned. Verse 3 is Madhuryojvala Premadya Sri Rupanuga Bhaktida Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute. So he is personified energy of Sri Chaitanya's mercy. And he's enriched with, he delivered the devotional service which is enriched with the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna, coming exactly in the line of revelation of Srila Rupa Goswami. And in fourth verse of Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaja's Pranam Mantra, Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruddhapa Siddhanta Dhvantaharine. So specifically Rupa Goswami's name is mentioned in the sense that he does not tolerate, Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj does not tolerate any statement which is against the teachings of Rupa Goswami. So it is very clear for us that Rupa Goswami is the Acharya whom we have to follow. And even though Rupanuga word is not mentioned in Srila Prabhupada's Pranam Mantra, we know that how much he emphasized himself in receiving mercy from Srila Rupa Goswami. Many different occasions, especially before he or when he was preparing to come to the Western world, according to according to the instructions of his spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada was living in Radha Damodar temple, and then he mentioned that he had some dream. He was, of course, praying every day, maybe moment to moment. He was praying to Srila Rupa Goswami to give him his mercy so that he can succeed in his endeavors to preach in the Western world. So once this personality Gopal Ghosh mentioned, I'll read his statements about Prabhupada's dream. So he was telling the person, once I met Srila Prabhupada and he was sitting on a small mat and he would often lean back against the wall. We have pictures also, sometimes he sits like that. He told me, Prabhupada told to him, Gopal, listen to me. At night, many times I sit in front of Rupa Samadhi and chant Harinam Sankirtan and burn an incense stick. Everyone is sleeping, but Prabhupada is having this wonderful service. I pray to Rupa Goswami every day that if you are truth and this place is truth, Then please show me your face and your grace so that I can feel your grace. I feel that Rupa Goswami's immortal grace is flowing, Prabhupada mentions, but the general mass of people cannot receive it. They just bow their heads there every day. But I am feeling that Rupa Goswami is here and he is hearing everything. And Rupa Goswami told me in a dream that great work will be done by you. He also said you should always chant Chaitanya Charitamrita and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and that I will be right behind you. So he mentioned when he was living in Radha Damodar temple, he had this dream and realization from Rupa Goswami, the blessing from Rupa Goswami. In Nectar of Devotion introduction, he writes about Rupa Goswami. He is the author of Nectar of Devotion. The author of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami, very humbly submits that he is just trying to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, although he humbly thinks himself unfit for this work. The humble mood of a pure Vaishnava he's mentioning. That should be the attitude of all preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement, following in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami. We should never think of ourselves as great preachers, but should always consider that we are simply instrumental to the previous acharyas, and simply by following in their footsteps, we may be able to do something for the benefit of suffering humanity. Now, Rupa Goswami is having this mood, Prabhupada is having this mood. So what to speak of conditioned soul like me, I don't even know what kind of mood I should have. An unqualified person to even share the message, but still Prabhupada instructs, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructs that we should still try to share the message in a humble mood as an instrument. He very specifically mentions that way we are not claiming that this is my message or nothing like that. We are just being instrumental to our acharyas, especially spiritual master. On behalf of them, we are just as a post-pune or postman, we are delivering the message. So, and Prabhupada mentioned elsewhere, we have to follow the footsteps of Rupa Goswami, Rupa, and become Rupa Anuga. Thus, we can understand Lord Chaitanya. And if we get favor of Lord Chaitanya, we can very easily understand Krishna. This is the process he very specifically mentions. So, I recently heard a pastime of Srila Prabhupada. So once this is in Pandharpur, where the deity of Lord Vithala is there, and devotees are offering Guru Puja to Srila Prabhupada. He is sitting, and in the audience there was an impersonalist, and sitting, I think, next to Loknath Swami Maharaj, Nagar Maharaj. So devotees started singing the Shri Guru Charana Padma Guru Puja prayers, and then started offering Arati. So Prabhupada is receiving the Arati, but he also started singing this loudly, Shri Guru Charana Padma, etc. Now this impersonalist felt something weird. He thought, Prabhupada as a guru is receiving Arati. So he mentioned this to Loknath Maharaj. I'm surprised that this sannyasi, he's okay, he's receiving the Guru Puja, I'm okay, I can understand, but he is glorifying himself by singing the song, Shri Guru Charana Padma. This is too much. So Loknath Maharaj corrected him, mentioning, no, he is not glorifying himself. We are glorifying him, our Guru. He is glorifying his Guru by chanting the same mantra. So this struck his heart, that person, he completely transformed just by hearing that Prabhupada's humble attitude, even while receiving this opulent worship. Immediately he surrendered to Prabhupada and took his shelter, and he became a nice devotee. If I remember correctly, his current name is Atmadasa or something like that. But he's serving nicely in this movement. So that is the mood of a pure devotee. He's completely under the shelter of his spiritual master, following in the footsteps of his spiritual master. Prabhupada is very wonderfully demonstrating that, and we can easily at least desire to be in that footsteps of Srila Prabhupada and his followers, and try to achieve success the way pure devotees are able to achieve. Now I'll stop with one more thing. I'll read a small paragraph from Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj, because he is a Rupanuga also. And during his last days, so in 1936, December 31st, he left his body. But 1 week before, December 23rd, he was giving a speech, or at least he was talking to the devotees, instructing even during those days. So this paragraph, I really like this. So I'll read. This glorifies Rupa Goswami again. So Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj speaks, I advise all to preach the teachings of Rupa Raghunatha, disciples of Lord Chaitanya, with all energy and resources. Our ultimate goal shall be to become the dust of the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Raghunatha Goswamis. You should all work conjointly under the guidance of your spiritual master, with a view to serve the absolute knowledge, the personality of Godhead. You should live somehow or other without any quarrel in this material world, only for the service of Godhead. Do not please give up the service of Godhead in spite of all dangers, all criticisms, and all discomforts. Do not be disappointed, for most people in the world do not serve the personality of Godhead. Do not give up your own service, which is your everything and all. Neither reject the process of chanting and hearing of the transcendental holy name of Godhead. You should always chant the transcendental name of Godhead with patience and forbearance like a tree, and humbleness like a straw. Very important instruction, very wonderful instruction. Same mood. Prabhupada is also following in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami. So I will stop here and see if you have any comments or reflections. I see a chat. I just now see. Also, BG 917, Lord mentions that he is the mother. Oh yeah, good. Pitahamasya jagato mata dhata pitamaha. Thank you for mentioning. I think is it Paramakaruna Prabhu, I assume, for mentioning this. Yes.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that. Nice, wonderful. Any reflections or additions, please, Prabhu or anybody else?
Thank you for the very nice class. Are you able to hear me sometimes?
Yes, very much. No, very much.
Thank you. Very nice class, Prabhu. I had one question or a request. You mentioned about Srila Rupa Goswami and how he would stand behind Srila Prabhupada. I've seen that picture many times, which is, if you Google for the picture, sitting in Radha Damodar temple.
Right.
He gets sort of in his mind darshan of Sri Rupa Goswami. You mentioned about some devotee Gopal Ghosh or something like that.
Yeah, I read somewhere. I'm not very sure about his details, but
I'm looking for that. If you have a link or anything, I mean, I could Google.
Yeah,
but
I will send you whatever I have seen. I don't know how much links we can get from there about his whereabouts, but I'll definitely
whatever you have seen, or one or two links that you gathered.
Yeah.
I have only seen the picture and I have heard the story. I just wanted to see if there is something written.
Yes, I will send you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam. Anybody else?
Thank you so much for the amazing class. You covered so many points, so many beautiful. For this, I love the participation of Rupa Goswami. You connected it very beautifully, Prabhu. Thank you so much for the beautiful class. Thank you so much.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for the wonderful class. I really liked how you started off with comparing the prayers of Dwaraka people to the demigods because Janmashtami is coming. And from there on, you talked about a lot of different nice topics, and finally when you ended the Rupa Goswami, everything is very nice. Thank you so much. That was such an enlightening.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam.
Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you
Jai
for sharing the Prabhupada's pastime of where he would sit in front of Srila Rupa Goswami Samadhi and chant and pray to him and offer incense. It actually reminded me of a pastime of another devotee in our Bhakti Shastri class. He shared his experience when he visited Vrindavan and Srila Rupa Goswami's Samadhi, and he described his experience there. And he just sat there and he chanted, and he felt this connection with our Guru Parampara and Rupa Goswami. So it was, thank you so much for sharing that.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that devotee's experience.
Yeah,
Very potent.
Yes, thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any other comments or suggestions?
In that regard, I just wanted to share one thing, Prabhu.
Yes,
Even
Prabhu,
I was
please.
very inspired by that devotee's sharing. Just to kind of extend what Poonam Mataji said. So this devotee was sitting and chanting also later on at Sri Sanatana Goswami's Samadhi, which is a little bit farther away from the temple. And you have to kind of walk. It's in a little bit of an isolated place where also we have the Granth Samadhi and other things.
Yeah.
And he wanted to go back and have dinner, but he was getting late. But he was so inspired, he wanted to chant all his rounds there. So he prioritized that. And in that process, it became like 9:30, something late, when the Govinda's restaurant and other things had closed. And then after finishing his rounds, he was wondering, okay, now what to do about dinner or something, because everything would be closed. Then one person came and said, just, not by his asking, would you like to have some prasad? Then he said, sure. And then he brought him a whole plate full, and he even sent me a picture of that plate. It was like a completely full plate, and it was the Mahaprasad that was offered in dinner to Sri Sanatana Goswami.
Hari Bol.
So I was very inspired to hear that.
Very nice reciprocation from the Acharyas. It gives us more faith and confidence to follow their footsteps.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Hare Krishna.
Thanks, Poonam Mataji, for reminding that.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, I will if you permit, I will chant one verse, glorification of Lord Balaram, because of Balaram Jayanti coming. I like that verse. I'll quickly chant and then stop. Spuradamala kiridam kinkini kankanarham chaladalaka kapolam kundala shri mukhabjam tuhinagiri manotnyam Neelameghambaradyam halamusala vishalam kamapalam samide. I glorify Lord Balarama, decorated with a glittering crown, bracelets, tinkling ornaments, moving locks of hair on his cheeks, splendid earrings on his handsome lotus face, and garments dark like monsoon clouds, holding a great club and plow, fulfilling all desires, and handsome like a mountain of ice and snow. So since Balaram is the original spiritual master, we can all seek blessings and mercy from him to empower us to follow in the footsteps of all other spiritual masters. Thank you so much. Shri Srinitai Satchinandan Dev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhya evacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna.